Forced Storytime intro. I just got my computer privileges back. I can't tell you how long I've been without it, but it's amazing to have my laptop again. You might think I'm some young kid who's going to complain about how much my life sucks, because my mom took away my computer after I did something bad or something like that. But that's not the case. I don't live with my parents anymore. We're not estranged, I've just grown up. I wonder how long it's been since I last talked to them. How long has it been since I talked to anyone? I suppose I should start at the beginning of this living nightmare. As I've hinted at, my sense of time is completely shot. Now that I have my computer, I can tell you the date, but that doesn't matter. It still doesn't tell me how long it's been. If I had to guess, it's been at least 3 months. 3 months as some sensory-deprived zombie huddled in the shadows with a notebook and a pen. However long ago it was, I remember sitting in my apartment, insomnia plaguing me yet again. I was more than used to it. It took me a few hours to assemble all the details of that night, but I think I've got enough to tell you my story. I've always been a fan of horror, short stories, video games, movies, books, you name it. Nothing would attract me faster than a good creep factor. Even at a young age, I'd bemoan my great misfortune of never having a paranormal encounter. No event to prove to me firsthand that the paranormal even exists. Had I any clue, any idea, any premonition, I would have dropped the interest right then and there. Maybe I would have gotten into ponies or some other frilly, girly, safe interest. But I didn't, and here I am. Yes, this is important to the story. So it was another insomnia-plagued night, and I was looking for something to make myself paranoid, to send that cold chill down my spine, maybe even force a suppressed cry of surprise from me. It was a fairly successful adventure. Short stories on the internet were my source for the evening. It started with me listening to narrated stories on YouTube while playing on my Xbox 360. Yes, by creepy short stories, I do mean creepypastas, but I just can't bring myself to seriously include that term in this account. Every time I hear it referenced or mentioned in one of those short stories, it just strikes me as jarring, taking me out of the moment. It's the whole fourth wall concept, but that's just me. Anyway, I got frustrated with the game I was playing and put the controller down. Besides, I had already listened to all the creepy stories on YouTube. I decided to focus solely on finding something creepy on the internet. I tried ghosts captured on camera and a dozen other variations, searching for interesting YouTube videos. Nothing new. I watched a few of my favorites that still gave me slight shivers. With nothing else easily found on YouTube, I turned to the wider internet. I ended up on a number of lesser-known forums. They had some decent stories on them, enough to make me check behind me a time or two. The last one I can remember reading is the one I regret the most. It was short. It wasn't even a story. It was just a brief description of an unnamed creature. I thought it was sort of cool, and I would have liked to see some art of them. Then I heard the scratching. I barked at my cat to knock it off, but when I looked over my shoulder, the cat was sleeping on the bed. So it wasn't her. Great, I had mice in the apartment again. I hate mice. I tried to ignore it, hoping they'd invade one of the neighbors' places, or that the cat would get them if they dared to stick their heads out of their hiding holes. I went about my business. The scratching continued, and was it getting louder? Come to think of it, I had never heard mice make such noises. Rats? I hate rats even more. If they were in the building, the landlord and I were going to have a talk. And still, that scratching persisted. I got frustrated. I needed to know what was making that noise. I checked around the kitchen, in the cabinets, under the sink, in the oven, even around the fridge. Nothing. It was only when I gave up that I saw it sitting on my counter. A small black creature, no larger than a kitten. I'm not going to tell you anything more about the creature. I'm not even sure what to call it. I can't tell you what attracted them to me, but I have my suspicions, and I'm doing all I can to put you in as little danger as possible. One suspicion comes from the fact that these creatures are eerily similar to the ones I read about, as mentioned earlier. It's possible it's a coincidence, or maybe knowing how they appear attracts them. Hell, maybe they put up the description and just waited for me to find it and read it. They seem to have a taste for the dramatic. This is where my memory starts to fade. I have snippets, just flashes of images, ideas, smells, vague gut feelings, odd sensations. It's all blurred. I'm not sure if some of my memories aren't just fabrications from my mind or poorly assembled pieces from other memories. So from here, I'll do my best, but I won't be able to tell you everything. I don't even know everything myself. Somehow, I ended up writing fiction for these black creatures. From what I remember, they can communicate, not verbally, but they communicate. Mostly, they use motions, gestures, and growls. Mind you, I've only ever seen them communicate with me, never with each other. They interact with each other, but it's different. Anyway, somehow they got me to write fiction for them. They remind me of people, or at least some people. They like short horror stories. So most of my memories involve writing short horror stories in a notebook. When I'd finish a story, I'd tear it out and give it to them. They'd cry and cheer as the pages were carried off, fought over, and eventually taken somewhere else. I've never seen any of those pages again. They didn't like the last story. This is where my memory becomes a bit more concrete. I was starting to regain control of my consciousness. Up to this point, I was just some half-minded, barely conscious zombie churning out work. I guess being more aware, my work was different. I forced a lot of it, cutting out some ideas and parts just to get the creatures, who had obviously been kept waiting too long, their new story. I gave it to them, unsure of this one. They didn't like it. They screamed and hissed, gesturing violently at me as they ripped the pages up. I tried to defend myself, telling them I was tired, that I lacked inspiration, that I was hungry, that I needed time and a break. I guess something got through to them. They allowed me my computer back for inspiration, and fewer of them are now around watching me. I'm not sure why they gave me some privileges back. Do they know I'm becoming more aware again? Are they setting me up for another nightmarish vapor trip? I don't know. All I know is they want more stories. I'm not sure what will happen if I displease them again. I can only guess and imagine. It's not an uplifting thought. So for now, I'll do what I can. I'll write, try to talk them into giving me more back. Maybe next time, I can get my phone back. One of them just scampered over to my desk and started screaming at me, a high-pitched, crackling noise. It used a claw to cut my cheek, pointed at the screen, made more noises, and then scampered back to the shelf where it had been sitting. I guess it somehow figured out that I'm not writing a story for it. I'll have to finish here. I'll try to get more out to you when I can.